We have fire. It's burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot. Hello, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill. Today we're going to harvest some bay nuts. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back. I want to apologize in advance for the traffic noise. I'm next to a road and there'll be cars whizzing past here as I'm attempting to do this video. Anyways, we have the native California bay tree here. And some of these can get pretty big if they're in a riparian environment, which these are. There's a creek bed down here, a bunch of garbage, and fools threw out a bunch of stuff out here. I really hate to see this. Anyways, there's a creek bed that runs through here. It's dry right now, but this is a bay tree here, and bay trees back here in the back. Here's a bay, and if they're in a riparian environment, which is a wet environment, the trees are usually, sorry about that, noisy here. In a riparian environment, a wet environment, the trees usually get pretty good size, and they also produce larger nuts. And this is the bay tree here. This is Umbellularia californica. Grows here native in California and into southern Oregon. The leaves are a little bit narrower than the cultivated variety Laurus nobilis, which is the variety that you would purchase and use for culinary purposes. The difference between the two, between the cultivated variety and the native variety, this is about 10 times stronger. You can cook with this, but if you do so, you better adjust your recipe down by about 90%. Otherwise, your dishes are going to be way too spicy. They'll be too hot to try and eat. But if you've never seen bay nuts, the cultivated variety does not produce these. Only the native variety, and they're about thumb size. Now these aren't ready to harvest yet. The husk is still green. When the husk turns black, then you can pick these. So these are probably about a week or two out, and depending on the tree, they ripen at different times from tree to tree. This one's huge right here. I mean, that's almost bigger than my thumb. And this is another bay tree going up here. This is an oak. The big one here is an oak. This is the bay. And you can see the nuts are hanging all over it like Christmas decorations. Native Americans here in California would use these as a food source. There's some more here. So what we're after is another one on the other side here where the nuts are ready to harvest. I shot a video last year, which I'll include in the comment box below, on how to identify the Umbellularia californica, the native sweet bay or sweet laurel. So here is a tree here. This has a branch coming in. Here's a section here. This is all bay. And these are, that's a ripe nut there. Now this top section here, this little green piece, this is also edible. Wait for the racetrack to get by here. The bay tree is in the avocado family. This little top piece here, you have a little nibble right at the base here, and it tastes just like avocado. So if you pull that off, that's the nut. This piece right here, remove that, and there's a little nibble right here. This little piece right here. You don't get much. Put that little piece right there, right on the bottom, is you get a little nibble there, and it tastes very similar to avocado. So what we're harvesting is the nuts. That's my bag down there. That's not litter. So I'm going to grab what I can out here. See, some of them are a little bit bigger. You scoop this piece out here. And that's the edible part there. You don't get much, but it's better than nothing if you don't have any other source of food. There's a couple more here. Those just fell right off. You know when they fall off pretty easy. They're ripe. Those just pulled right off. Throw these in my bag. Now what you want to do is, you don't want to leave these sit inside the husk. There's moisture in here, and these will mildew and mold rather quickly. So as soon as you get home, what you want to do, you want to husk these. That's very easy to do. Discard the husk, and this is the nut. Now you cannot consume these raw like this because they contain volatile oils and they're a bit toxic. So these have to be roasted, and that'll be the next part of the video. I'll walk you guys through how to roast these and everything. But if you, as soon as you pull the husk off, lay these out on a cookie sheet or a piece of screen or flat rock or whatever you have in the sun. If you don't have sun, just put it where there's a lot of air circulation and let them air dry, and keep an eye on them. Squirrels and birds and whatnot will grab your stash. And so as soon as you get home, husk these, let them dry. Once they're dry, just like acorns, they're very shelf stable. These things will keep for probably a good year, maybe longer, if you keep them dry in a dry location. But after they're roasted, they will spoil quickly because of the fat content in the seed. So after they're roasted, you want to consume them rather quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest some more here. I apologize again about the traffic out here. I'm sure that's blowing your guys' ears up, but unfortunately I can't always pick and choose locations. Gotta grab stuff while it's where it's available. Edibles don't always grow in the best locations, opportune spots. And again, they're ready to go when you just pull up on it and it pops right off. Big one back in here. Most people have never seen bay nuts, so I wanted to shoot this video. There's a couple nice ones. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, there's one down here that I missed. I want to go ahead and finish harvesting what I can here. I got a lot of them growing in twos over here. Yeah, roasting. You can roast them in an oven. Traditionally, they were roasted in the coals of a campfire, and I'll walk you guys through that process. I'm going to husk these and let them dry for probably 3 days. And whoop, that one fell. And then we'll go ahead and roast these and walk you through that process. There's quite a few here. I'll bounce back to this location in about a week or two and harvest the other ones on the other side there. So there's a few left in here. There's one down here that I missed. And with any acorn or nut, if it's moldy and rotten looking, don't try to consume it. Acorns will go bad very quickly if they're not dried properly. Another handful here. Boy, that traffic's annoying. I'm going to point out another thing I just noticed that's growing here too. It's a very medicinal lichen, which I also did a video on. It's called usnea, which is highly antibacterial. It makes a really good wound poultice. I actually have some in my herbal apothecary at home. And usnea is a lichen is a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungi. And I just happened to look over here. You see this dead wood? This is usnea. This is all usnea here. This is a very, very valuable apothecary botanical that can be used as a wound dressing. And it grows predominantly it's on this dead branch that came down here. And there's a bunch more of it on the other side. I'll show you that in just a second. I'll probably include that video in the description box below. Hopefully I don't forget to do that when I'm processing. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. It looks like I probably got all the... Whoop, there's one down here. Hiding out down here. Oh, here's a few more. I have to kind of look back in. Two more down here. Usnea, as you go north, it grows longer, up to 6 inches in length. This is a drier environment. It's hotter here. We're at about 41 degrees latitude, and there's one down here. So the usnea doesn't get as big, but it's still just as medicinal. And here's one up here. That just fell right off in my hand. It's looking like I probably got everything here that I can reach. Got a pretty good little haul there. This one's it looks a little rotten. I'm not going to grab that one. It just looks a little moldy. That was one of the early ones, but this is what I got off that. Just off that little one there, and there's quite a few other ones and bigger ones. on the other tree, but I'll give that about a week so they get dark in color and mature. But here's another dead branch here. It's a huge dead branch. And as most fungi, they love to grow on dead. They love to grow on dead things, roots, trees, etc. But there's some really good pieces back in here. This is all usnea. That's all usnea back in here. There's a lot of it here. I'm not going to harvest any because I have quite a bit of my herbal apothecary. It's nice to know. Didn't see this driving by. When you stop and take some time to get out of the vehicle and look, it's amazing what you run across. But there's so many useful botanicals out here in nature, and this appears to be, this dead branch is a dead oak. And how I know that, there's an oak gall growing here. That's indicative of an oak tree. And these galls, the light colored galls, are very medicinal too. These have a very high tannic content. And tannins are very important in a primitive situation. You can make a very powerful astringent with this: a wound wash, mouth wash, body wash, very highly antibacterial. You can wash your hair with that. You can even, you get enough of that and make it enough solution, you can even do your clothing in it, in a bucket. It'll clean your clothes. But oh, got another one right down here. Kind of look through, but I think I harvested that one pretty good. So yeah, I'll put the usnea video and the native bay identification video in the description below. I'll have to write myself a note so I don't forget. I'll come back in about a week, and there's a lot of green ones. You want to leave those till they're dark, as we just discussed. Looks like we got blackberry down here. It's blackberry vines, a lot of edibles, useful botanicals here. There's a lot of, up higher there's quite a few that I can't reach. Let's see what we have down here. Oh wow, here we go. This is another California botanical. I also shot a video on this last year. This is called toyon. Our native people pronounce this as toyon. And these berries here, they would make a traditional beverage out of these. As a matter of fact, I'll probably harvest some berries here, and I'll shoot a video on how to make the traditional beverage. See if there's any more bay nuts. I see some more down here. I don't know if they're ripe though. Here's some more dead wood, and this is not usnea. This is another lichen. That's usnea. And this is usnea up here. Now here's another bay. It's a small bay here. A lot of dead wood in here. Wow, there's a lot of usnea growing back down in here on the trees. Here's some more bay nuts. These are like the others, are still not ready to harvest yet. So, oh, I think I see some darker colored ones down here. I really hate to shoot videos next to a roadway like this. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but look at all the nuts. Look at all the bay nuts in here. I mean, this tree's decorated like Christmas decorations. Yeah, there's a lot of them here that they're not quite ready though. They're not dark. See, if you bend them and they don't just pop right off, they're not ready to go. I'll give those another week. And here's more. This one's probably pretty close. Give it a bend and it popped right off. That popped off. If they're not ready, they won't come loose. And a few more, and I'm going to give the rest of these until next week. 'Cause they're still a little reddish. They could probably stand to be on there. They should be dark, but they came off pretty easy, so that's a pretty good indicator that they're ready to harvest. A bunch of blackberry vines along here, and these are a ready source of. They make a great cordage. You can make basketry out of them after removing the thorns from the canes. Here's some of the berries here that are left over. Anyways, guys, I will return when these are dry and ready to roast. Here's a darker colored one right here. That came right off. Pretty easy. So stay tuned. I shall return. Hey, welcome back. I'm home and away from the insanity of all the traffic next to that roadway. I finished removing the husks from the bay nuts, and I found a few that were moldy. If they're fuzzy, when you remove the husk, if it's fuzzy looking, then just discard them. And so I got a pretty good little haul here, so I'm going to let these air dry for probably 3 days or so, and then we'll move to the next phase of the video. I'm going to roast these in the oven on a cookie sheet, and I'll demonstrate how to do that here in a few days. Also did these are the toyon berries, and I harvested a decent little amount here, and I'm going to let these dry for probably, I don't know, a week or two, and I'll grind these up in my mortar and pestle. You don't have to really powderize them too much, but just kind of mash them, and then I'm going to do a separate video on how to make a traditional Native American beverage, which is kind of sweet with a little bit of tartness to it. And I'm going to show how to do that the traditional style. In a primitive situation, I believe I mentioned this out there next to the roadway where there's so much insanity with the traffic. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. You can do these in the coals of a campfire, which is how it was done traditionally. Place them in there and you roast them for about 15-20 minutes. These are going to turn colors, the shells. That's how you kind of judge when it's time to pull them out of there. So, and I'll go ahead and we'll discuss all that when we move to the next phase of the video. So anyways, stay tuned. I shall return. Okay, we're getting ready to roast the bay nuts and go through the process. As I mentioned earlier in the video, traditionally it was done in the coals of a campfire or next to the coals, and the reason for roasting the nuts, they contain volatile oils which can cause a burning sensation in the back of the throat. So if you ever you roast these and you're trying to eat them and you get the burning sensation or the tickling, it's an indication that they haven't been roasted long enough. So the roasting process, it heats it up, the volatile oils, and they evaporate as they're being roasted. So the first thing to do, I'm going to do these in the oven and on a cookie sheet, and you can preheat the oven to a temperature of 450 degrees to 475. I've got this set at 475. So we'll go ahead and toss these nuts in here. You want to roast these when they're dry. If you try to roast them when they're green, this process will not work. So as we showed earlier in the video, just husk the nuts. I've had these sitting on a plate for several weeks, and they've actually been dry longer than that. It didn't take that long to dry them out. I've just been busy and finally getting to this video to finish it up. But just like acorns, you know they're dry when, hopefully the camera's picking that up, that rattle. When you shake them and you hear the rattle, the nut, as they dry, they shrink inside the shell. And that's an indicator. When you shake it and you get the rattle, you know you're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and throw these in here. About every 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to stir these around to help ensure that they are roasting evenly. We're going to roast for 20 minutes, and as we do so, we'll see the shells turn color. They'll start to darken, and they can go to a brown or to a very dark brown. It's personal preference. I think we'll roast these pretty well. So it is exactly. I don't have my. Let me set the timer here. I didn't bring my cell phone in here, so. Okay, there we go. I've got 20-minute timer on there, so we'll give it a few minutes, open it up, stir them around, and we'll keep an eye on the color of the shells as the roasting process progresses here. So we want to stir them around about every 2 or 3 minutes, and the nuts will keep a long time in the shell. They're very stable. The saturated fats are, just like acorns. So as long as they're in the shell and they're kept dry, they'll last a year, maybe a couple of years, as long as rodents and moisture don't get to them. Once these are roasted, they will go rancid pretty fast. So never roast more than you can consume fairly quickly. Traditionally, the native people would roast these and then consume them as soon as they cooled down. And once they're roasted, you can place them in a jar, bag, in a primitive situation, possibles bag. You might have to get creative in a situation like that if you're going to transport them. They'll keep for a little while after they're roasted, several days, maybe a week or so. But I wouldn't push it much after that. The fats will turn rancid, and you'll smell it. It'll smell kind of like olive oil that has gone bad. And the nice thing about these nuts, pine nuts, bay nuts, and acorns, in a primitive situation, they also make good bait for squirrels if you're going to set up some snares. If you're going to do that, I wouldn't even bother roasting them. Just shell the nuts and set up your traps and snares, and set the nuts out as bait. And that's pretty much it. We'll just keep an eye on these things here, and we'll give it, they've been in there about 2 minutes. We'll give it about another minute, and stir them around a little bit. I'm just stirring these around with just a wooden spoon. So much easier to shoot a video in these conditions than by that roadway. The traffic was absolutely brutal out there. Unfortunately, it's I can't always pick and choose where I run across things, and it's almost invariably some of the best edibles are found along the thoroughfares, unfortunately. So we got 3 minutes in already. So you can see here the color of the shells haven't turned at all. We're just going to give them a little stir like that, and go ahead and let the roasting commence here. Once they turn a very dark brown, they'll be done, and pull those out and let them cool down, and then crack a few and give them the old taste test. There's a lot of edibles out there in that area. It's one of my favorites. One of my favorite areas to go to. It's just a huge variety of botanicals out there. I just happened to look up and I seen that usnea there on the oak branches, and then of course the oak galls, and I mean, nature supplies so much. And then the toyon, and I haven't done the toyon beverage video yet. I still have the berries in the refrigerator. Been very busy, very busy. So things are finally starting to get caught up with some things. So this video has been a little while. It's taken me a bit to get to the conclusion here. I hope all of you had a great Christmas. New Year's coming up. And please don't drink and drive. Not worth it. See what we have on the time here. Another minute here, and I'll give it another stir. And we'll just use the color of the shells as a guide as to when to pull these. I could cut the video here and everything at the risk of boring everybody. I think I'm just going to let it roll, and just so everybody can kind of follow along on the process. So waiting for the timer here, and there we go. It's been another 3 minutes have elapsed. I can smell them. They're starting to turn just a little bit. Almost smells slightly like popcorn. The popcorny smell to it. And stirring those up also prevents them from burning on the bottom side. So about every 2 or 3 minutes is the accepted time interval on stirring those. If you're doing it in a campfire around coals, you might want to do it even faster. you know, maybe every minute or whatever, just to ensure that they don't burn. You don't want them to turn black. You have a large flat rock. You could get that nice and warm, put it over the coals of the campfire, and then put the nuts on top of that, and that should work pretty good too, as long as it's good and warm. Down in the coals, I would imagine you're going to get the black soot, the charcoal on there, so it might be a little bit more difficult to gauge the color of the shells as you roast them. So might have to get a little creative if you do that. I'm thinking some flat rocks might work a little bit better. Or maybe flat rocks with a depression, a shallow depression, kind of concave, or a few depressions, so it would help ensure that the nuts don't just roll right off. And we got about another minute. We're almost halfway through this process. Another minute, give it another stir. Now, it all depends on, from person to person. These nuts do contain a stimulant, and some people can be sensitive to it, and some people there's no effect whatsoever, but I want to include this here on the video. It's very similar to a caffeine high. It doesn't last as long as a caffeine high, but some people can get kind of wigged out. It'll just amp them up like a very strong caffeine high. And as I mentioned, some feel no effects whatsoever. So let's give these another stir here. Smell the popcorn. So what I would recommend if you're going to try this, as with any wild edible, number one, make sure that you have correctly identified the botanical. My advice to everybody is to seek out an experienced forager or botanist to help you identify the wild edible and medicinal botanicals. Don't ever take any chances. If there's any doubt whatsoever, do not attempt to apply it to your body or ingest it in any way. But proper identification is very important, and I suggest with any wild edible, don't just go, even if it's properly identified, just don't go and eat a bunch of it for the first time. Try a very small amount and just see how your body is going to react. You don't want an allergic reaction, specifically an anaphylactic reaction. That would not be a good thing. So, and there are people with food sensitivities. Got about another minute or two here before we stir it again. It smells very similar to popcorn. So yeah, just try a little bit, and one good way, you can hold it to your lips for several minutes. Take it away if you don't feel any tingling, itching sensation, swelling. Then you can put the piece in your mouth, and I'm speaking of correctly identified edibles. Just to ease into it and make sure you're not going to have an adverse reaction, hold it in your mouth and just kind of monitor it for several minutes. See if you have any tingling sensation, and If you feel good about it, you chew it up and swallow a small portion, and wait a half an hour to an hour, and just make sure that you're not going to have any issues. If you're still good after that, then you can proceed using your own judgment. I've sampled all kinds and routinely forage and harvest edibles on a regular basis. I have for years. I've never had a reaction, not a single one. So, but I don't have any food allergies neither. So I've been very fortunate that even when I'm out harvesting pine pollen in the springtime, I don't have any allergic reaction to the pine pollen. I do have allergies to grass pollen, but we got about another 30 seconds. We're going to stir these again. So I'm just hanging in here, not cutting the video, just walking everybody through the process. So they're starting to darken a bit. They're definitely starting to darken. You can probably see that. There's a few in there that are still a bit light. So we got about 7 minutes left, so I'm thinking that's probably going to be just about on the money. 7 minutes until the 20 minutes elapse, time limit elapses. I think I'd rather have them a little overly roasted, make sure the volatile oils have evaporated, and I'm thinking a bit of a roasted flavor would improve the taste also. So like I said, when these are done, pull them out, I'll let them cool, and then we'll crack a few and give them the taste test. And these are off the Umbellularia californica. This is the native bay tree of California, and they grow throughout California. Well, the Sierra mountain range on the western slopes, the western side of the Sierras, the coastal ranges, and they grow from sea level up to about 5,000 foot elevation and into southern Oregon. I harvest I have quite a few of the leaves. I use my herbal apothecary, and I make tea out of those. They're very highly anti-inflammatory. They have an analgesic effect. Really good for minimizing inflammation in the body. Let me get in here, make sure I'm not going to burn these things. Really good for digestive tract issues. I just use one leaf because the native bay, Umbellularia, is about 10 times stronger than Laurus nobilis, the European cultivar. You can still cook with these, you just have to use a lot less because they can overpower a dish. And so I use a slice of organic lemon in a coffee cup of coffee mug full of water, and I squeeze the juice in and I drop the rind in with the pulp, and then I put one leaf in there and I put a saucer over the top and I let it steep for about 10 minutes or so. So it's an herbal infusion, and I drink I've been drinking one of those every evening. And the reason why you want to put a saucer over the top, the medicinal constituents, the volatile constituents, will evaporate and they'll leave with the steam. So you're actually, if you leave a tea sit for too long, 10-15 minutes, while you're waiting for it to cool down, it's actually decreasing in potency. The medicinal constituents will. You can probably see those are really starting to darken, so we're getting pretty close here. Got 4 minutes left on, so I think that 20-minute time limit was right on the money. So yeah, you want to cover, you know, pour your boiling water into the mug, and then place your herbs, whether they're dried or fresh, and then put a saucer over the top or something else and let it steep. That traps the volatile constituents in. They'll evaporate, they'll condense on the bottom side of the saucer, and then they'll simply drip back into your tea. So you're not losing, you're not lessening the potency. So there's a little tip there. I am a certified herbalist, certified in herbal medicine, and also aromatherapy. So I spent quite a bit of time studying, and I also practice medicinal herbalism and aromatherapy and of course foraging. Doing that a lot of years. I have a lot of fun with it. I don't want to burn these now. They're getting really close. You can probably see how dark they're getting there. So we've got 2 minutes left, so that's going to be right on the money. Yeah, it smells very similar to popcorn. I'm not going to stir those again. I'm just going to let the timer run out here. They smell really good. Really good, in fact. Very similar to popcorn. Oh, we got counting down on the last minute here. I just want to burn these things. Let this count down, then I'm going to get them out of there. About 20 seconds left. Ten seconds. I'm going to yank these. There it is. Whew. And that's, let's see here, hopefully you guys can see that. No. That's a pretty good color. It's not a bad color on those now. Up here. Turn that off. Okay, I'm going to let these cool for a while, and when I return, we'll crack a few and give them the old taste test. Stay tuned. I will be back. I just want to give you guys a close-up of the finished product here and the color that they are. They're a nice dark brown. These are still warm right out of the, I just took them off the cookie sheet. Some got a little darker, but that's okay. They should still be okay. Just wanted to give you guys a close-up of the finished product here. So let's give these a taste test. Okay, we've got the nuts here. I went ahead and cracked one. Been nibbling on it. They have a nice roasted flavor. They're actually really nice. I don't detect any tingling in the back of the throat and the mouth. So it's safe to say that the volatile oils were cooked out. You can use your teeth to crack these, or a pair of pliers. Put them on a flat rock with a hammer stone and lightly tap them to break them open. I just use my teeth. It doesn't take much pressure at all to open these up, so if you do use your teeth to crack these, don't blame me if you lose a filling or you crack a tooth. So you might want to use a pair of pliers or whatever, but I want to give you a close-up here of the nut. Whoop. Get my act together here. And these could have probably been taken out a little bit sooner, maybe 3 minutes sooner, but they have a really nice, I wouldn't say they're burnt, but they have a very, very pleasant roasted aroma. I'm thinking these would probably make a pretty good coffee, kind of like how you would roast dandelion root. And probably would be really good in that aspect. Go ahead and they're actually pretty good. Very, very similar taste to popcorn. Very popcorny, like popcorn that's been cooked really well. Actually not bad at all. No tingling. I don't feel the caffeine-like effect. I mean, I can wait a little bit and then check back in to see if I feel. I think I'll do that. I'll give it, I don't know, 20 minutes or so and see if I feel a caffeine-like effect with these. But so far I don't feel anything. Yeah, these actually aren't bad at all. These are very high in linoleic acid, so they have numerous health benefits, and these are one of the few nuts that contain linoleic acid. So they're actually pretty healthy. Not bad. I could eat the whole saucer. I've ate a few, so I think I'll go ahead and cut the video. Give it, I don't know, I'll give it 20 minutes, 30 minutes and see if I feel that caffeine effect. And I'll just check back in and then conclude the video. So stay tuned. I'll either come back wired on caffeine, or I won't. Be back in a bit. I'm back. I haven't noticed any difference. There is supposed to be a chemical constituent in these that's a mild stimulant, which is very similar to caffeine, but maybe I need to eat more of them, but I haven't noticed anything, and I've been snacking on a few of them. It's been, I don't know, probably 30-40 minutes. The taste, I've been thinking about the taste. It's very similar to coffee, black coffee, with a hint of a bitter chocolate. These are actually pretty good. They're not bad at all. Like I said, I've been snacking on them here. Next fall, which is fall, September, October is when these are, and into early November is when the bay nuts are ready to harvest. I'm going to harvest quite a bit more next year, and as I indicated, they stay shelf stable for easily a couple of years, as long as they're in a container and completely dry before they're put in a container, and are kept dry away from moisture. They're very shelf stable, but I'll just roast them as I need them. But yeah, these are actually really good. You grind these up and put some in a coffee filter. I think it'd probably make a decent beverage, very similar to coffee. But yeah, it's a coffee type flavor with a kind of a bitter chocolate taste, very roasted flavor. They're actually really good. Anyways, guys, I think you heard me ramble enough. I hope all of you are having an outstanding day or night, depending on where you're located. And I will see all of you very soon on the next video. Everybody take care and have a very safe New Year's, and please don't drink and drive. See you soon. Bye-bye.